Welcome back to Modern Holistic Therapy, where I strive to provide support and information regarding family estrangement. Today's difficult topic is parent-adult-child estrangement and toxic behavior, and I'm going to give you 8 steps to rebuild. Hi, I'm Marie Morin. I'm a therapist and a wellness coach. Let's get started. Before we begin, let's just set the record straight that when there's been toxic behaviors, either by a parent or an adult child, this creates a lot of hurt and harm for the individual who's receiving the toxic behavior. So it's a difficult topic, but the truth is that people are harmed by toxic behavior. So let's set out what toxic is. So toxicity is defined as these behaviors in a category that are manipulative, controlling, hypercritical, overly reactive. So about adult children who estrange, cut ties with their parents, when there has been toxic behavior, they are in great distress. A lot of parents are in great distress as well. But part of the reason why they cut off, according to what the research says, is that they have felt a degree of unsafety. They've tried to communicate to their parents that things were not working for them, but things didn't change. And so in order to gain some type of relief, they backed out of the relationship. Step 1 is to reflect and take responsibility. So I've heard of a lot of parents that are extremely angry about this part because they say, oh my God, no matter what I do and say, they're still going to be angry with you. And that could be very true. There are some adult children who aren't going to do this step with you well. They may have toxic behaviors as well. But for the parent who has identified, they've taken a really good look at themselves and they could say, you know what, from this period of time, I really was toxic with my adult child. I was very controlling. I stepped over their boundaries. I wasn't respectful to them. So if you stop, just take a look back at your behaviors and assess, what did I do during this time period? What did my child receive? You can get an idea of what their perception of this was. This will help you because it really is the foundation of working towards reconciliation. See, the truth is, adult children want to know that their parents have estranged. So you might be thinking, well, you know what, my kid was really terrible. They did all this to me and it was a two-way street, and that may very well be true. But as we've learned in other videos, you know that the rules of the game don't apply to fairness. There's no fairness here. The parent is placed in this position where, in order to have some type of a relationship with their adult child, particularly when there was toxic behaviors, there needs to be a degree of change, and the parent is required to take responsibility. In this step of taking responsibility and reflecting, the big part of it is your opportunity to validate them. So you might be saying, you know what, I don't even talk to them. How could I possibly validate them? Well, an opportunity will arise. There are different strategies that you can use to take responsibility, but that piece of validating them is absolutely essential. So when you're validating, let's remember, it doesn't mean you agree with everything they're saying. However, you can put yourself in their place and take a moment to see how they might be feeling. And number 2 is seek self-improvement. So the first part of that is to get yourself in a place where you're processing grief. You're going to want to watch my videos about grief because estrangement and grief go hand in hand. There's a loss of the relationship status, and it really wears on us emotionally and physically and socially. So getting stronger and gaining support is absolutely essential. Another piece of this is to read books. Watch videos, be informed, know what's going on in the estrangement realm. What are adult children thinking? What is the community of individuals? 27% of the United States population reports being estranged from one or more family member. That is a lot of people. What's going on? And knowing this, you're not alone. There's a huge community of parents and adult children that are in this same condition. Develop self-awareness. What this means is to be aware of who you are, what you've done, have insight into yourself. What are your motives? What are your triggers? The goal is to get healthier and stronger, not only for your adult child or your family member, but also for you. This takes its toll, as we discussed, but it's also important that you get to a place where you realize you are entitled to have a life in spite of what your family member chooses to do. And number 3 is to consider apologizing sincerely. So, of course, again, you might be saying, how on earth can I apologize? My kid has blocked me, or my family member won't even talk to me. Well, there are certain things that you could do. We know that in the community of estranged people, what's been very effective has been an amends letter. And there's a certain way to do it, and there's a certain way not to do it. So you want to be able to do a sincere apology that doesn't make excuses for your behavior. For example, oh my goodness, I am so sorry, but you know I was going through the divorce, etc., etc., etc. This does not create an environment where your adult child is going to think you're changed. They will see you as just making excuses for your behaviors. In this apology, you don't want to minimize. You want to do this at the right time, and you also want to understand their perspective. What has this been for them? And number 4 is respect their boundaries. So a boundary is something someone puts in place in order to give them a space of what's acceptable and not acceptable. If they've already told you, do not contact me, I don't want to talk to you, and it's just happened and this is fresh, you want to respect their boundary. And it really alerts them that you're paying attention to their needs, and it gives them a clue that you are listening. In toxic behavior, there's this control and sort of overwhelm that adult children feel. And when you're just not listening to their boundaries, if this happens, they get the sense that, see, mom and dad are really not paying attention to me. But when you pull back as well and you give them the space that they need, they get the message that you are paying attention to what their needs are. They didn't pull away because they had no discomfort at all. Remember, adult children cut ties because there's a degree of distress and they are seeking relief. And number 5 is to demonstrate change. Now again, some of you might be saying, how the heck are they going to see that I've changed? They don't even have any contact with me. Well, there are occasions where your adult child will show up, events where they may be there as well. And your posture as being changed is a really good clue that you're doing the work for self-growth. So demonstrating change means you've learned how to communicate. You've learned how to not do toxic things like overburdening them, questioning them, controlling them. This gives them a clue that you have done the work and that you're on a path of self-improvement. Demonstrating your growth, even if your adult child does not communicate with you, will give a message in time when you do have opportunity that you know how to talk to them, you know how to validate, you know how to listen without resorting to what they would consider or perceive as toxic, meaning anything hypercritical, a lot of defensiveness, a lot of controlling. The key here is that your actions align with your words. If you have communicated in any way with them at some point before respecting their boundaries, or if there was a conversation or a fight or an argument right after the cutoff and you've said, oh, but this is not true about me, whatever you've said, your actions moving forward is an indicator to them that you're doing the work to parent them in a way that's respectful and not toxic. This gives them tangible evidence of your transformation. And step 6 is rebuild trust gradually. So the process of reconnecting with your adult child and building yourself up and transforming takes time and patience. We know that the average length of estrangement is 4.5 years. It's a long time and it's brutal. And there's certain things that you ought to do and not to do. So in this step of rebuilding trust, it's being consistent. If there's opportunity, like we discussed a moment ago, are you still going to be that person that's validating and understanding and not pressuring and not pushing and not demanding and not being hypercritical? These things tell your adult child that you are changing, and that does rebuild trust. Allow them to set the pace for reconnecting. You've done the work, now it's up to them. Remember, the ball is in their court. Be understanding if they're still not trusting and they have skepticism. Show empathy and give them opportunity to process what's happened to them. Keep the line of communication open, so should they want to communicate with you, you are still there. So what does this mean? So after you've given your adult child space, a couple of months, you might want to send them, if they're receiving emails or texts from you, a quick brief message. Hi, I'm thinking of you. I just wanted you to know I will always be here for you. That's it, nothing else. This keeps the line of communication open. You might want to do this sporadically, but this open communication alerts them that you are still available to them. It's not uncommon for parents to rush into reconciliation and kind of agitate the problem, but resist the temptation to pressure them to reconcile quickly. Building trust is a gradual process, and it takes a lot of patience on your part and just persistent effort to stay on target, stay on track. And number 7, seek professional help. So again, estrangement is a grueling condition that is just so hard for parents and adult children. Gaining support will help you to get through the grieving process, as well as learn how to be empathetic with what's going on with your child, help you to support your ability to transform and to grow so that you're getting stronger. We don't want to get into a place of depression and hopelessness. You want to get to a place where you continue to live in spite of what your adult child has said to you, or whether they want to be in your life or not. A therapist or an estrangement coach can help you get through this process, providing tools and guidance to help you get stronger. And step 8 is to practice patience and persistence. So how do you practice patience? You just keep working on patience. You have to remember that this takes time. You're going to have a degree of grieving. You may be very anxious. You may be worried. Maybe your adult child has a mental illness. Maybe they have an illness and you're wondering, how on earth is this kid going to be okay without me there to support them and to remind them? It could be that your adult child has substance abuse and you're concerned for their well-being. They could be doing things that you know typically that are harmful for them, and you're in a conundrum about this, and that is super tough, and they're not talking to you. It's challenging, to say the least, when your adult child won't talk to you and you have all these concerns and you have all these fears. When will they come back? Will I ever have a relationship with them again? And so practicing patience just requires you every day to say, I'm going to get on the acceptance train. I'm going to just start to accept it is what it is. I'm doing the things necessary in order for me to grow and get stronger. I know what to do. I know what not to do. And in this way, every day you remind yourself you're doing the best you can to move forward. The grieving process is not linear, so you could have some bad days and some good days. And that's where the self-care that I talk about, where you're actively learning how to address the needs that you have, learning how to regulate yourself so that you're not so upset, by using breathing techniques, praying, meditating, doing things that say, I'm honoring my well-being. Be prepared for setbacks because they're going to happen. You're going to have good days and bad days, right? So you want to just be persistent and go back to reassuring yourself and having compassion for yourself, because this is a very tough road. Patience and persistence can open the door for reconciliation, as well as bringing you to a place where you're feeling and doing well and you're thriving no matter what the external circumstances are. Rebuilding a relationship with an estranged adult child when there's been toxic behaviors is challenging, yet worth the journey. Remember that you are on a path of changing. You are on a path of growing, and you're doing the best you can. You're getting support. You're working on your communication skills. You're learning as much as you can. You're transforming. You're getting stronger. Remember, by reflecting and taking responsibility, you're opening the door for reconciliation with your adult child. They want to know that you respect them and validate them. This is what they're saying in the research. By reflecting and taking responsibility, you can build the foundation for a healthier relationship with your adult child. You will be providing a healthier and loving connection with them. Remember, change begins with self-awareness and a genuine desire to make amends. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button so you can get more of these videos. We'll see you in the next video.